I am exhausted. We hear that often, perhaps in our own voice, if we're honest with ourselves, and take note of it when we say it. But if it's not us saying it, maybe we hear it a lot around us as well. We ask people, friends and strangers alike, how are you doing? And the response comes back so often, I'm just exhausted. Even Jesus seemed to notice it. Why are so many of us so tired all the time? Our tiredness is a result of many things, given the numbers of us feeling tired and exhausted, and given the numbers who comment on their exhaustion. It's obvious that so many of us are yearning for some kind of rest. Perhaps it would be good for us, in the light of this gospel, to take a look at what might be some of the sources, some of the reasons we are just plain tired. The most obvious, I guess, is that we have a very tight work ethic. Many of us work too hard. We are consumed by our work. You've probably heard the story of the successful businessman who visited an Indian village. As he walked along, he saw a man lying under a tree doing nothing. This prompted him to say, "Hey, don't you think it's time to be up and about doing something productive?" The man under the tree looked up and replied, "Why?" The businessman answered, "So you can get a job and earn some money and make something of yourself." The man under the tree simply smiled and said, "Why?" Very annoyed, the businessman retorted, "So you can make money, you can start savings account, and then someday you can retire and enjoy your life." And the man under the tree simply smiled and said, "I am enjoying my life right now." Along those same lines, we also could be one of those who do not enjoy the work that we do. People who enjoy their work have unbelievable energy and they're tremendously happy. They hardly ever complain of fatigue or tiredness or exhaustion. It might be fun for us who do not enjoy our work to take a look at what we're doing for a living, or how much of what we're doing perhaps was for all the wrong reasons. Maybe it's time we look at why we're exhausted at the end of a workday. Maybe it could indicate to us that we're just not enjoying what we do right now. Thomas Edison's wife worried that he worked too much and deserved a needed vacation. And so she was after him all the time to take a vacation, but she was not about to make a suggestion about where he should go. That would be entirely his decision, she knew. But she felt it was important that he spent some time away from his work. So after Thomas Edison finally agreed to go on a vacation, his elated wife said to him, "Look, you have enough money. Just decide where you would rather be and go to anywhere you want to be more than anywhere else in the world. You can do that." "Very well," he replied. "I'll go tomorrow." The next day, he faithfully kept his promise. He went back to his laboratory. It happened to be the place he'd rather be than any place else in the world. How many of us can say that about our work? But I have friends who work very hard, and I have friends who love what they do, and they're still tired all the time. And as I observe them, it appears to me at least that for so many of them, they think they have to be on all the time. They have to be up and on all the time. trying to be liked, trying to get attention, trying to get accepted, trying to win. That's an exhausting way to live, to ever think that we have to be up and on all the time. And then there are those who work long hours, but don't get tired from work. Rather, they get energized from what they do, but they come home to a house full of noisy kids, demanding kids, unruly children, and give them 1 hour there, and they're dead. They're ready to escape, and they're complaining. What's going on with that? Why is that making them so tired when a full day of work did not leave them that tired? Could it be because they have control at work and they don't feel like they have any control at home? Another reason we can get really, really tired is boredom. How many times have I been with students 15 to 25 years old who were just telling me how totally exhausted they are, barely enough energy to eat, and then they don't even have enough energy to stay awake, and just then the phone rings, and a friend offers the possibility of going out to a party, and within seconds, that same student springs into life, and in no time, they've changed their clothes, and they're out the door on the way to a party. She will party until 2 or 3 in the morning, showing no signs of all that fatigue and exhaustion. What's up with that? Could it be that tiredness is a product of boredom? Just last week, one of my young friends called and said he was just really, really bored being at home with his parents. And on that particular day, he was really bored. He was restless and agitated. I wondered with him if there's a way he could look at boredom differently than he does, the way he's framed it, as something to be avoided and has nothing to give him. And that maybe there is a gift in boredom that he has not gotten in touch with yet, that leaves him so restless and agitated when there's nothing to distract him from his life. I feel something of that fear of boredom myself moving into different situations over this COVID time, especially of being what I would have in the old days been afraid of as being too alone. But thanks to the alignment of the stars, things going on like some awesome priests who are willing to help out here so I can take a break and who are helping us, therefore, in the next few months especially. And thanks to our students being gone, though I miss them terribly, the demands in a day are not quite the same amount of appointments going on. And there are hardly any funerals, no weddings currently, very few, just one baptism in all these months. I have a chance to hide away for a bit and work on a couple of projects that have been of great interest to me and make some progress on 2 books I've been wanting to write now for about 20 years. And finally, given this alignment of opportunity, I think it's going to work, that I can escape, hide away, and work on those kinds of things. But I have to admit to some anxiety about the solitude of all that, and the perhaps monotony even of some of that research. That could be not rest, but restlessness, if I don't frame it in the right way, and if I don't stay excited about my learning. But I would say that one of the biggest sources of exhaustion for me and for most everybody I know is what I would call negative emotions. Negative emotions are so with us, and they so sap our energy, and they sap our strength. Keeping dark secrets, for example. Not telling anyone our secrets. If it's you, then you know it's true, that it takes so much energy to keep a secret. It takes so much energy to keep people away, far enough away, that they don't really get to know the secrets inside of us. But you know and I know when you tell someone, anyone, in therapy, a good friend, even in confession, it's like this heavy weight comes off of us of not having to hide something about ourselves anymore. I can see it physically in confession over and over again. When people share something they've never shared with anybody, and they're truly sorry, and it's like you can just see their whole posture changes. It's visible. I can promise you he or she will no longer be tired and exhausted as they once had been from holding that secret. But all those other negative emotions like bitterness and anger and resentment, obsessive thoughts about getting some back at someone who hurt us or making sure we tell them off for how they hurt us. And we ruminate about these things over and over again. And it ends up taking so much energy, way more energy than just bucking up and saying, I'm sorry, or bucking up and having a direct, humble, open to learning conversation. And we fume about this stuff, and we're just tired. It takes a toll on our power and our strength and in our energy. It could well be the source of so much tiredness for you, for me, exhaustion, because we just can't let go of some hurt deep inside of us, and we're just not quite able to forgive. That's exhausting. And one more thing that I just keep seeing again and again is the possibility that our tiredness stems from a lack of having a cause greater than ourselves. How about that group of residents in a nursing home who were given a number of houseplants that they were to water and care for themselves and supervise? Their involvement in that simple task of caring for something increased their alertness, it added to their energy, and provided them with a real enthusiasm for life again. When we have a cause greater than our own, than ourselves, even than our own families, when we give ourselves to someone or something other than ourselves, it comes with a surge of energy, the feeling of exhilaration that comes from having a purpose and a meaning. And yet, even as I say that, I'm aware that it brings suffering with it. I see some who find that cause greater than themselves, perhaps even these days, these months of these years, around social justice issues in our world, who decide to take a stand for what is right and speak for the poor or the powerless with some face or another. And they start out so strong and they start out with so much passion, and it often turns out burned out in them, spent, discouraged. They get so beaten down and worn down for their efforts, and they get just plain old tired because of it until they look to someone who can model for them, inspire them again to carry on. For me, I think of somebody like Nelson Mandela. I think of Moses, for example, who didn't give up with setback after setback. I think of Martin Luther King Jr., who didn't give up. And it re-energizes me to have those images. And this book is full of people like that who hit one obstacle after another and did not give up. Did not burn out. Politics is like that now. All these marches and demonstrations, they will fade into nothingness unless we keep going. The gospel you just heard has that famous and oft-quoted line of Jesus. Come to me, he says. Come to me, all you who are weary and find your life to be a burden, and I will refresh you. I will give you rest that refreshes. Jesus is telling us who are tired and exhausted, look at me. Look at him. Look at him and put a lid on that work day. And learn how to fall in love with your kids after a long day of work. Look at him, and he will remind you to smell the roses right where you stand. And have a mini vacation just smelling one of those roses. Look at him. and find yourself getting lost in friendship and conversation and re-energized, not depleted by your vulnerabilities, but re-energized because they're just true and honest. And that's a good way to live. Look at him. Look at him and find what it means to be about something bigger than yourself that can remain in you, something bigger than your own. Looking at Jesus might mean getting a little nudge from him to let go of your need for control, to let go of that last hurt that hasn't gone away yet, to let go and forget and cut those chains of that weight around your neck, our neck, of bitterness and resentment. Looking to Jesus for rest might recharge our batteries for the important work that's ours to do for justice. If we just look to Jesus. To all of you, and to my own self, when we're tired and exhausted, Jesus says, I know you're tired. But when you're weary and you find your life to be a burden, come to me. Come to me and let me love on you. Come to me and learn a whole new way to live. Come to me, and my love for you will refresh you.